but not on the video, but he wants to give
Then she's gonna
Dan
call Brent
Tim
and
Stacali
ask him if he's done.
Dan Weiss.
Okay,
So Dan's on board.
okay.
And we have Yolanda or? No, we do not have Yolanda in the house and or online. Okay, so we've got the one proxy, and that is all we've got right now. So in your hands, sir.
Okay, all right. With that, I will open up the Ozark Regional Transit Board Meeting for April 25. We just had an announcement of proxy, Dan Weiss is here for Tim Stacaliak. Do we have any other proxies that need to be announced?
Yes, sir.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Does anybody see any changes that need to be made to the agenda? Hearing none, and if there's no objection to that, we'll go ahead and consider that adopted. Item number 3, I'll go ahead and open up the floor for a public comment period. Is there anybody from the public, whether in person or online, that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Being none, we will move right along to the adoption of the February board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes they wish to be made to those documents? All right, then if there's no objection to that, I'll go ahead and consider those adopted too. Item number 5, the March 25 Executive Committee Board Meeting Minutes. Those were included on at page 5. Yes, those are. Kind of a brief summary of that. Joel presented the committee members with a letter that was sent out to the city. The letter will request that cities provide in-kind services for the construction and installation of bus stop shelters. We're going to get into this a little bit later with the executive director's report. We also went over the executive director's evaluation for Joel. A few highlights from that were some of the organizational goals. We noted there was staffing shortage and mechanical issues on older vehicles. We also requested that the board be given more updates on vehicle maintenance and the quality of vehicles. A few performance factors for Joel. We feel that he exceeds the expectations for integrity and innovation. He feels that there's still a lot of work that he can do to make sure that ORT is inclusive of all users. The members agree that Joel is sincere with the work and dedicated to the goals of the organization, and that we're also pleased with ORT's efforts to provide communications in different languages. We feel like the financial responsibility exceeds expectations as well, and there's improvements that could be made to education and training for employees. Joel would like ORT to develop communication strategy, or excuse me, the board would like ORT to develop communication strategies to tailor to the needs of each city. And a few of our next steps for the organization include looking at a possible successor for Joel within the next 5 years or so. And of course, finding a dedicated source of funding for the organization as well. That's kind of the summary of what we went over. Are there any changes that need to be made to that? And if not, do I hear a motion to adopt those executive committee board meeting minutes?
So moved.
You have a motion, do I hear a second? I'll second. You have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, so we've adopted the executive committee board meeting minutes. Next up is the regional plan update.
I got late notification that nobody from RPC would be here, and they don't have anything that they want to update.
Okay, sounds good. Next up are the financial reports. Mindy?
All right, here on page 7, we have the March financial, the first quarter of the year. For March, we had a favorable balance of 17,000 in revenue, and that was mainly due to a little bit more than expected in fare box revenue and some additional contract revenue for the month. Our expenditures also had a positive variance of 45,000, which is largely due to the fact that AFERS hasn't started yet. And so when that goes in, that'll start using up some more of that fund. I think Joel will probably talk more about it in his executive committee or his report, but we expect that to start about in August. And also our fuel and parts are still for the year running a bit below budget, but we're keeping a close eye on that because that can always drastically change as we have some major repairs or fuel prices go up. But overall, there was a positive balance for 62,000 for March, and year to date, we're at 197, which is once again mainly due to the benefits we do with APRS and some parts of fuel savings. Are there any questions?
I had a question about advertising revenue. Is that included in here?
Yes, so advertising revenue, if we go to the financial statements, so year to date, we can kind of get that in a quarterly basis from our, advertiser. We changed this year, and so we don't know the anticipate will be better, but off to the beginning, it's kind of off to a slow start in changing the person who's doing our advertising on buses.
Who is that?
Bulk,
Yeah.
How-
That's a marketing company.
Yes.
Sir. Okay.
and they handle all that for us. We previously had another group doing it, but we went out
Joel or-
Mulligan,
oh, okay.
but we went out for bids again, and this group came in.
And then
We're hoping,
they sell the ads and then
Yeah.
they get a piece and you.
we're hoping that with better results with the new company that has more larger scale, resources and work. So the more, I mean, this first year, it may be a little less getting started and everything, but once it gets into place, hopefully
Yeah.
we're.
And I know for Fayetteville, we're really strict on advertising on benches or shelters, but I don't know about the other cities. If that's something you guys are looking at too for revenue.
Over the years in conversation with the city of Fayetteville, and this is just within the first 4 years with my tenure here, we started having that conversation about advertising in the city of Fayetteville with sign ordinance, that type of thing. The net result of that, and we're still sticking by it, is that if there is a shelter in front of Joe's Truck Shop, we can't put King's Chicken in front of Joe's Truck Shop. If Joe's Truck Shop wants to do something in front of their shelter, they can. But as far as anything goes on the buses, so long as it meets our standard of quality and control. But when it comes to the actual sign ordinance, we have not been prohibited from putting things out there, but we don't want to be putting things out in front of someplace that isn't really associated with that place.
And we try to follow most of the cities and their, wants as far as that for advertising, on anything like that, Trying to stay within their guidelines as well.
Okay, there's no other question about finances. Thank you, Mindy. We'll move on to the voucher stats. And
Full page here so we can see a little better. $96,442 passengers so far. This is ridership through last night. So sometime next week, we're gonna hit the 100,000 mark, and this is earlier in the year we've ever hit that. So, that's pretty exciting. Ridership is up 12.7% compared to last year. And you can see that here, the trend line of 2025 on how we're averaging 1,265 passengers a day right now. In fact, in April, we went over 1,400 twice, and we hadn't hit 1,400 in years. So, ridership is really starting to skyrocket and take off. That's exciting. Up in there.
Let's real quick, lower left-hand corner, the V for February, stands for, the frozen days. Most of us, or a lot of us, were down enjoying the sunshine in Tucson, while the rest of everybody else was up here freezing. And so when you take a look at your individual cities, passengers, hours, miles, and if you see drops in any of those, that is the first quarter drop based off of the 4.5 days or so in February, where everything around here was a popsicle.
And we'll start with Fayetteville, coming individually south to north. You can see Fayetteville, even with a drop in hours are still up 21, almost 22%, over 51,000 passengers in Fayetteville so far. You can see the trend line in the daily ridership. It dropped a little bit in the first quarter, but it's starting to pick back up in April, to still be up 21+%. We jump to Springdale. Springdale's almost exactly 7 passengers fewer than it did year to date last year, so it's right on track to where it was. But if you look at its trend line, you can see how here in April, it is really starting to take off as well. Very nice trend for Springdale, so this number should really start increasing. We jump to Rogers. This was close to 30% last board meeting, so it's increasing. They're still down a little bit. But you can see how Rogers is trending compared to last year, and their riderships as well starting to come up. We jump to Bentonville, which has some really nice increases. It's up 20. This was in the negative last board meeting. It has turned around dramatically at 24.5%, over 11,000 passengers year to date. And you can see its trend line, how it is really taken off in Bentonville with it's a service levels and the increase in routes that we've had up there with the new Route 12 and 13 has really contributed to this. So,
And if I could just take a quick moment and talk about the jump in hours of 59% in the city of Bentonville, same period this year versus same period last year. We've worked with Walmart over the past 6-8 months, and Walmart funded 2 routes. The Walmart corporate, I would say, not the Walton Family Foundation. And Walmart funded 2 routes. They funded the Route 12 from, I would say, about December through the end of March, maybe into the first week of April. And then also that was the Route 12, and then they added on the Route 13 to provide more saturation up and down 8th Street. And so the Route 13 and the Route 12, I mean, that is 2 routes every day for the first quarter, pretty much, that they added on to what the city's already paying for.
Are they gonna continue to fund those?
So the Route 12 got shut down because there's no longer a need for it. Route 13, I don't see an end in that one until we as an organization put enough service up and down that 8th Street corridor to satisfy the ridership needs.
Understood.
Wait, why was there no longer a need for Route 12?
Route 12 connected with the old home office to a facility north of the old home office. It was about 1.5, 1.8 mile difference. The facility to the north did not have enough parking space. The old home office has, I guess, a ton of parking space. And so to keep employees from walking in the heat and the cold, they contracted with us to build a fixed route, a public access fixed route, to go ahead and provide that service. Now, with the new opening of the new home office, that particular facility, I believe, is one of the first ones to be disbanded and moved over to the new home office. So there's nobody up there anymore, as far as I know.
Joel, just a note on that. They actually still have some people there, and they had gotten a permit from the city to add extra parking there, and they've got that construction completed too. So it's people moving out, and also we added some parking up there.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Hey,
I'll finish.
Kendall and or Joel, I'm curious. So I don't remember when it was last year that we implemented the $1.25 on the on-demand transit. I feel like it was a couple months in.
It was
And
April.
April, okay. So I'm wondering, given the, and this question came up last night from a city council member at a school board city council meeting that we had about expanding on-demand transit and on-demand transit versus fixed route transit. And I was attempting to explain how fixed route is more cost effective in terms of the cost per passenger to run fixed route versus on-demand transit. And I guess, so what I'm wondering is, do you think any of our Fayetteville's 23% increase in ridership, well, actually, it might be different, 21% increase in ridership, year to date. Do you think any of that is due to, more people riding fixed route and, switching from on demand to fixed route because of the charge change and just the efficiency gains we are able to achieve by being able to move more people on fixed route? I'm just wondering if you have thoughts on anecdotally how that change might be playing into our ridership increase.
So if you look at the two bar graphs on this page, Peter, you'll see that the increase is on the left bar graph, which is the fixed route passenger boarding, and the on-demand passenger boarding is actually a bit less already than what it was in 2024. So I would say as far as efficiency in moving people, financial efficiency and operational efficiency, the fixed route is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and that's growing ridership. In my world, on demand is always the let's test an area, find out what the need is for transit, and then find a way to get a fixed route in there. But you can see right here that the fixed route is carrying the bulk of the passengers, and it's growing much faster than what on demand could.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is the picture right here that answers that question for that council member.
Yeah. Yeah. And the difference in the scales between the fixed route scale being 10,000 per line versus 2,000 per line on your on-demand passengers. Yep. That makes sense.
Correct.
Yep. Cool. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'll finish with some on-demand that, we would just, look at, over 1,200 passengers so far this year. Once again, this is through last night, over 1,200 customers, unique, distinct customers that have ridden, have an account and have ridden this year on demand. I'll go through each city so we can zoom in a little bit better. You can see the saturation in the Bentonville zone with its one vehicle continues to leak. They still carry 4,300 passengers, but it's just a 32% completion rate, 58% seat unavailable. But 335 customers have been using the service in Bentonville. In Fayetteville, slow to move. Also, its zone and saturation. It's getting about 75% of its ridership. Over 6,700 completed trips. 394 people have used the service to take those trips. In Rogers, same thing. You can kind of see they're at 57% with a 35% seat unavailable rate. 234 people. And finishing up in Springdale here, you can see its zone, and they're just covering the zone as well. Over 6,000 trips, 81% completion rate in Springdale on its service. 357 unique customers in Springdale using the service. So there's the overall on-demand service. Over 21,000 customers have received on-demand trips, and about an 18-minute average ETA with a 12-minute ride time when they do get their vehicle and get it picked up. So that's all I wanted to touch on today. Any questions?
This is a question I brought up after the last meeting about the pricing and the possibility of having it be a flat rate per ride, price per passenger. So it's $1.25. If you can add passengers, and then it's going to add the cost. But comparing that with a rideshare app, for example, it's per ride, not charge per passenger, and how much of a limiting factor that is for a family. Because if you're a family of four and you want to get to your destination, then it's 4 times the price. But if you take an Uber, it's the car comes picks you up regardless of how many passengers there are. So that was something that I wanted to bring up. Because I don't think it's a limiting factor from capacity, hardly ever how many physical people are on the bus. It's mostly logistic of just getting those trips accomplished. So that's something I just kind of wanted to bring up again. If that's an option, I'd like to explore that.
Okay. Let me work with the guys at VIA, find out what their response is. I can say from my standpoint, we're at $1.25 for any trip. And I don't think you can step into an Uber for less than $12. So whether you're taking 3 people or you're taking 1 person, it's gonna be $12, it's $12. In our case, if you're taking a 1 person, $1.25 is better than $12. And, $4.50 is, or $3.75 is still better than $12 if you're doing 3 pieces. So we're still a very economical, price point. I do understand, but I will find out if there's a group cost.
Yeah,
I guess that would be the best way.
Yeah, I would like for it to be a flat trip cost. And that would encourage people to carpool, would encourage people to bring more people and bring those ridership numbers up for on demand.
I'll find out.
Okay, do we have any more questions? If not, thank you, Kendall. We'll, move on to the safety report.
I just got my notes on that.
Okay. We're on hold for just a moment.
Well, I'm stepping in for Bronco. He would normally give this report, but he is at training. So I'm gonna do my best to, follow his lead on, the safety reporting packet. He did send you a multi-page packet, which includes some actually pretty good, bar graphs, that he's been tracking things on. So far in 2025, from January through April, we've had 7 accidents, excuse me. 4 of those accidents were our fault and the other 3 were the other vehicle's fault. If you go down to the graphing portion, this is what he really wanted me to focus on, is that we've got 11 different pieces of information, or 11 different statistics that he's following. And these are accident by specific route. And you can see right here, we've got everything from Route 14 all the way up to the ODTs. The next one is accident by time of day. And this is, I think this is pretty interesting, that our accidents really are peaked when the roads are busiest in the middle of the day. We've got accidents, number of accidents per day. And this is gonna be per day of the week. Curious that the majority of our accidents happen on Mondays. Accidents by route is the next one, the type of route, whether it's on-demand, fixed route, or paratransit. We've had no paratransit accidents. The majority of them are fixed route versus on-demand. Whose fault? This is a good one. Here it goes, shows that ORT was at fault in 4 of the accidents and the civilians were at fault in 3 of the accidents. Then, of course, an employee safety score. We have a program in our system now called Motive. And Motive takes a look at 20 different behaviors that the employees are doing. And it's everything from wearing a seatbelt to stopping at a stop sign and everything in between. We are excellent and good at 69%, and we're fair at 32%. We actually did a
Fair at 9%.
yeah, sorry, strike that, reverse it. Fair at 9% and excellent and good at 92%. We actually did just a quick glance at stop signs alone in the month of February, and we had 170 some stop sign violations. And a stop sign violation is not having the vehicle come to 0. So we announced that at the safety meeting. We talked to people about it at the safety meeting. And that went down to 6% of total stops. When it came down to it, the following month. So it was pretty interesting to see the behavioral change. We turned on the speaker because the Motive will actually talk to you. and say you did not stop, or your seatbelt is off, or you seem to be distracted. We turn on the vocalizer at that point in time, and now even when you're in a, let's call it a Walmart parking lot, and there's a stop sign inside the travel lane in a Walmart parking lot, it will consider that a valid violation, even if you roll through that. So I've told all the employees, you're not in California. This is not the old California stop where you slow down to a nominal speed. You are, in a professional job, in a professional business, and that speedo will go to zero when you actually are operating a ORT vehicle. And it has self-corrected pretty well. So as we go on, we will hopefully see more of these safety habits increase and the violations decrease. Accidents by the time of day. Hang on, we'll get through these in a second, Sarah. Accidents by the time of day. There's the safety score breakdown, and let's go through time of day, afternoon, morning, evening, and accidents by city. This is what it looked like in the first 3 months. Vehicle or property damage is another one that he looks at. And type of weather during the accident. So these reports that Franco will be delivering on a monthly basis, he'll be able to actually thoroughly discuss them with you. Like I said, I'm pinch hitting today, and hopefully I've given you the information that he wanted you to have. So, Sarah, did you have something?
Thanks, Joel. Sorry, I put my hand up because, my brain was working too slow to add on to Dane's comments. And I'm sorry if I missed this, if it got covered. But in regard to him talking about, potentially a total trip cost, I know you were saying on the on-demand charge that's less than an Uber. I understood in the early conversations around on-demand when we were looking to charge a rate that we weren't thinking this was going to be it wasn't going to be a major revenue generator. It's more that we were trying to balance out our demand. So I guess my question is, do we have the data when you're looking at this to come back? Are you able to tell us today or in the future? I don't know how many of the on-demand trips are like single person versus multiple person. And so if we were to potentially lose that revenue stream, if we went to a flat rate, even if we flatten it and just did $1.25, I'm curious how much revenue loss that is, because I'm going off the top of my head. I think that's only in the budget for like $30,000. I think it's quite minimal is what I was thinking in the budget previously. But that was my question as a follow-up to what Dane was saying. Because obviously we've seen the demand start to balance out, but I don't know if that's one person getting on or if that's 5 people at a time. I just don't have any visibility to that I've noticed, or I've missed it in the packet.
Well, first and foremost, we will get a breakdown on group trips and group trips, more than one versus one, what our percentage looks like and how many they are. Secondly, Mindy, do you remember what the actual budget amount was?
The budget amount is 90,000.
Okay.
I'm way off. Sorry. It's like
That's all
going
right.
off the top of my head. Not good. Sorry.
Expense or revenue?
90,000 in revenue for the year, but that is very minimal compared to our budget.
The whole budget, yeah.
Did you say 9 or 9D?
90.
90,000. Okay.
That's
90,000.
more than I was remembering. So, but again, I don't know if you go to a flat rate. I don't know if that's going to, get your budget by, 10% or is it 50%?
So
And then, if that's so minimal, even in that, is that a good investment again to know that while we are for everyone, we do recognize that this is currently, many of our members of our public that really have to get to point A to point B are using it.
And it may be
anticipating 90,000 in revenue from the fair
fares for the whole
for
year.
the year, for the whole program regionally.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And the 30,000 that you may have been thinking about was an extrapolation of the 90 over the entire service area and what Fayetteville share might be, because Fayetteville does have the higher ridership count.
Thank you, Joel. That's probably where it came from. I appreciate you clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just on demand.
Yes, sir.
And it was never, and when we decided to do this, Joel told us that it would never be a moneymaker and that the cost of implementation of any kind of a fare program ends up eating up a lot of the fare. And so it has reduced demand for on-demand transit. I'm not super on board with the very concept, and on-demand is always going to be supplemental to fixed route.
Yes, sir.
And if we are going to do some kind of a fare program, I think we should accept any form of government assistance identification as a fare. You know, if somebody's on WIC, if somebody's on Medicaid, something like that, that would be documentation that they have met a certain threshold to receive government assistance in some area of their lives, and that we ought to be providing free transit to those folks. So, you know, we get a glut of on demand, and so that's a success story. And so we start charging for it to reduce demand. I just don't know that I have ever quite been on board with the idea of it.
And the idea of on demand for me, and I said a little bit of this earlier, the idea of on demand, we get a glut of on demand that tells us that we need fixed route transit in that area.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it should be. On demand was a great stopgap for COVID.
Yep.
Excellent stopgap for COVID. And now that it is a popular item, in my opinion, we should be using it for the tool that it can really be, and that is identify an area, find out what the demand is in an area for public transit, and then find a way to go ahead and convert that on demand to fixed route. Because again, public transit, there needs to be a little bit of last mile energy in there. Whether it's walking, bicycling, somehow getting to the public transit bus stop. And we should not be so much of a front door taxi person as we should be a fixed route public transit service. So on demand does a great job of identifying where the needs are for public transit services, fixed route public transit services. That's my opinion.
And last kick on the dead horse here, for the benefit of the board, I think everybody, I'm not sure that everybody's had this or been through this analysis, but it would be logical to use on demand to make use of surplus capacity during lulls in the day. And so if you have fixed routes spiking, let's say at rush hour of AM and PM, then you have excess capacity during the trough. Hey, why don't we use those assets for on demand for the people that aren't necessarily on a schedule, but at some point they need to get to Walmart or whatever it might be. The problem with that is the transition time that it takes to get from a fixed route to an on-demand route makes it not worth the effort. So that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But it'd be great if you've got, 10 buses on a route, and you only need 3 during the middle of the day, take 7 of them and put them on demand. But it just, by the time you transition in and out, you may have like a couple of hours or something. So
Right.
Anyway, we've looked at this a lot of different ways, but I think when on-demand is used in a mature transit system, it's used as a supplement.
Yes, sir.
And it's not the main thing. Even though like in Rogers, we've seen a decrease, I think, in overall ridership moving away from on-demand, but we're betting that those fixed routes over the long run are going to be more viable.
Yes, sir.
Questions, Tim first and then Joel.
Tim?
Yeah, my concern is, and I'm following this on my phone, it's not, I can't see anything accurately, but my concern about one flat rate, no matter how many people, is if people consider if they turn on demand into their cheaper Uber. And is that a drain on the resources? You follow me?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then we don't have to talk anymore. I just wanted to bring that up. That's a
The
concern. of mine.
the one thing on flat rating, and we definitely need to explore this even further. We were able to go on demand at $1.25 because that's what we were when we, air quotes, suspended fare services around COVID for everything. We reactivated fare services when we were given direction, and we took it right back to the $1.25. If I do anything more than, oh, you're gonna get me lying here, 10% or 25 cents. I think that's what's in our documentation. If I do anything on a fare increase, I now have to go through all of the federal requirements for public input. For me to do public input in Northwest Arkansas, to ensure that I get all facets of possible riders, citizens, and cities, we're probably looking about a 12-month public input period to ensure that we get everybody that we want to get in every community that we want to get. So the public input process for fare increases is intended to be laborious from the FTA side, because they don't just want people walking around going, okay, we're adding 50 cents on everybody's fare today. So if we change on-demand transit to a bulk rate, if we go much higher than, I'm gonna say about a quarter or 10%, we got a long haul ahead of us. I just wanna let you guys know that. It won't happen right away. That's my point. So. And Ms. Fields?
Sorry. I just wanted to mention, somebody had said something about individuals that are maybe low to moderate income and in need, to point out that City of Fayetteville is administering a program where we provide, through the partnership with ORT, monthly passes for 12 rides. So individuals that are in need can come to our office on Rock Street. We're right on the corner of Rock and Block, and apply for our program, and they will receive a pass for 12 rides, monthly pass. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that and that they be sharing that information. Thank you.
Another raised hand, Juliet?
Yeah, I guess one question I had, so if the idea is that we're using fixed route primarily to get data to transition, hopefully to, or I'm sorry, on demand to get data to transfer to fixed route, do we have like kind of a system in place to where, like, when we get to a certain level of saturation as far as rides requested in a certain, I guess, geographical area, that we start to study that? Like, is there kind of a, not an automatic trigger, but, something that y'all see that when you hit that level, you start to talk to that city about that? I wonder if that could be, if we don't have that, then maybe like thinking through what those parameters could be to where it kind of becomes an automatic assessment at that time.
So let's switch over to the ridership report, specifically focus on the city of Fayetteville for on-demand. This is a good, a great story to tell right here. If you look at Fayetteville's on-demand corridor, now the entirety of the on-demand is on the east side, is 265. On the west side, it's a little bit to the left of 71 Business. This shows me right here that there's a high demand for up in the, let's go to the north side. Can we expand that even closer? This is what I really want to be able to show. There's a lot of services in the northern portion of this particular on-demand zone that people are accessing. You've got the Northwest Arkansas Mall, you got the medical facility around there. Now, we don't specifically have any fixed route in that area, because that area is traditionally serviced by Razorback Transit. But this would be one of those areas, Ms. Ritchie, where I would say, hey, we've got this saturation, we're showing a huge need for additional transit services here, because it feeds both the east side and west side of 71 Business. On the west side of 71 Business, we got everything from apartments to social services to post office. We've got schools, we've got living, and a whole new series of apartments coming in there. So this would be one of those areas where I would say, yes, City of Fayetteville, once once all of this gets done and the saturation becomes even thicker, I would like to go ahead and convert it to a, fixed route, basically reinstating the Route 30, that we used to do up there. But we've got to be able to know when we're going to switch a vehicle from on-demand to fixed route. Because that now means either we have to take the on-demand away and insert the fixed route, or we have to fund a whole new fixed route. So there's the financial balance in there of, what we're able to actually service with the dollars that we have. And is it wise to go ahead and pull it out completely and put the fixed route in? Or do we transition it somehow with both of them in those area, in that particular area, and then slowly start to take the on-demand away? So yes, ma'am, there is a, I will say, a mechanism in place, and this mechanism is the tracking that we've been doing for the last 1.5 to 2 years on these different service areas.
Yeah.
Joel?
I guess I would say just since everything rolls on a yearly basis, right? Because they're being funded by the cities and their yearly budgets and all that, like maybe having even just like a quarterly check on which areas are saturated, and then beginning discussions with those cities. It seems like, the chances of getting something worked out sooner, rather than later might be good. And I also like it because I feel like, and I know we've talked about this before, but I feel like we need more of a story when we're talking to the people who are funding us now, right? About how we're using the money that the cities are giving, to fund it, how we're using that to build towards something specific. And I think that like having, these ongoing evaluations that come up on the city's radar multiple times a year because of this data that's being driven, maybe that helps reinforce that message, right? That we're building towards something. And I think we always have to be communicating that so that we can keep getting money, you know what I mean? The money we have, and then building a case for more money, like always showing, that kind of level of progress. And I know we show progress and ridership and things like that, but I really like the idea of building on demand, using that data to build directly into fixed routes and having time to talk through that multiple times a year with each jurisdiction.
Yes, ma'am. And my challenge to the board on that is, as we provide this information to you on a bi-monthly basis or on an as-needed basis, that this makes it beyond the Ozark Regional Transit Board and into the mindset of the cities that we serve, the city councils, the mayors, the different departments.
Joel, can you remind us approximately what a fixed route of transit service costs per year?
For 2024, we're at 91.44 an hour times, how many hours a day do we do it? 12 hours a day, times, we're at 255 days. 255 days a year, not including Saturdays. Not including Saturdays, a standard fixed route is 279,806.
So 280,000.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yes, sir. And that is 12 hours, 5 days a week.
But what, for how many buses?
Per bus.
Per bus. Okay, got it.
Any more discussion to be had on any of these topics or the safety report? We were all.
That was mission creep if I've ever seen it. Oh my Go.
On the safety report, just to clarify, on the, I would call them crashes, but accidents, those are vehicle versus bus. Police report filed, and then
Yes.
is there another, incident, like let's say a passenger tripped and fell while getting on or off, or so there other like crash type?
Non-collision person injuries. Yes, those are reported. I will find out where he's got those reported in his statistics, but we do have the trip and falls. And the trip and falls, everything's documented. Bobby, if you can, talk a little bit about what happens with that trip and fall, with or without, medical response.
Fortunately, most of the trip and falls, they're approaching the unit or walking away from the unit. It's very rare when they fall on the bus with all the grab rails and the handrails. So we don't have many of those to keep up with. Those are pretty substantial to us because when there's 911 involved, we have to stand the driver down for 3 or 4 days. So those are very well documented when it happens on the bus, and it's just extremely rare.
That's something that I'd just like to know about, is when we were applying for the TAP grant for the shelters and the ADA accessible pads. That was something that we were pitching as a safety benefit to say it's safer for passengers. So if there is anything to share, that'd be helpful.
Right, there's not a lot tracked when it's not on our property or we don't have the responsibility. It is called in, it's documented on the report, but we don't track the data if they fall walking to their apartment or coming out of the doctor's office. We just call it in a note that we observed it.
And it looked like, according to one of the graphs, there was accidents involving vehicles, but also property damage. Are those non-vehicle to vehicle?
That would be a fixed object, that type of thing. The greatest fixed object that we have is the overhangs of medical facilities, that type of thing, where we had a rainy day February, I think it was rainy day February, where normally we drive on the outside of the awning, but the driver wanted to do something really kind and make sure that the individual going into the medical facility didn't get soaking wet and freezing cold. Attempted to get underneath the difference between the top of our AC unit and their hang was an inch. And it was an inch in their favor, not in ours, so we actually caused damage to their awning.
Okay,
So
all insured.
all insured,
Okay.
yes, yes.
One more question, Sarah, just really quick.
There, yes, ma'am.
I might have answered my own question. I did bad quick math, and so I went back and was checking my math and noticed that. I don't know if the origination of just some of the conversation, sorry, the on-demand versus fixed line conversation has been so very good this morning, and I appreciate it. But I'm not sure in the origination of how he did fixed line, kind of what made us determine the operating days. And I know I learned a lot in the conversations working with the community about how important it was and how like we extended in for our line in South Fayetteville for Saturdays, knowing the need, for folks to be able to go do like their errands and get kids to their events, etc. And so it is more than the initial amount I came up with. So it is like 57,000, and that's just rough math too, because it's not every single Saturday. Or yeah, because you said there's only anyway, maybe it would be all Saturdays. I don't know if it was a money decision or if it's a balance of like hours for the staffing when I think about, you basically running something 6 days a week versus the 5, or what the maybe originating conversation was on maybe why fixed routes just run the way that they do. And so I didn't know if you could touch on that a little bit to understand that history as we're kind of thinking about that going forward.
I would immediately lean towards my historian, Kendall, who's been here 31 years. But from what I understand, Ms. Moore, this also around funding. Do what you can do with the amount of money that you're going to be given by the cities. Match it with what you can from the state or the feds and make it go as far as it can go. Right now, we do approximately 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday on most routes, because that's all we can afford. What I would like to see is us at 20 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 16 hours on Saturday, and possibly even on Sunday. But all of that comes with a cost. And that cost is something yet for us to be able to realize here at ORT.
That's helpful. Thank you, Joel.
Yes, ma'am.
Hearing no other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and go on to the communications update. Is this gonna be Lakeisha starting this one?
I
All
believe
right.
so.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So yes, we're going to kick off our communications update, starting with Erica talking about within marketing and some of the things that we've been doing. And then I'll transition from Erica to Jeff, and then I'll close it out with the arts, culture, and wellness piece. So once we get the slide up, we'll get Erica. Oh,
I think so, yeah, I think they would, yeah, I think they would.
yes, it was the next slide.
Oh, it's the slides. I'm sorry.
Yes. That's
Is
okay.
these?
So maybe the next one,
And then switch it. Here we go.
yeah.
If I make
Okay.
it full screen.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, so as I spoke last time, that we were starting to separate the messages for each city. That way, each city can get a little more comfortable about what they can do within their own city, where we do want to still maintain brand awareness for the entirety of Northwest Arkansas. But now we're focusing our message individually. So at the end of Q2, the goal is to have individual landing pages for each city. That way, if you notice right now on our social media, where they're saying, hey, Bentonville, or hey, Rogers. This way that at the end of Q2, we'll be able to say, hey, Bentonville, hey, Rogers, hey, Springdale, hey, babe, I'm gonna say all the cities, everybody's pretty. But this way we can add individualized landing page link. That way the person who's in Fayetteville or Rogers, they can click it and say, oh, this is all the stuff I can do with transit in my city. And we're not saying like, don't go to the other cities. You can go and have fun and do everything. But what we want to do right now is say, hey, kind of condense the message a little bit so that it's not so overwhelming. If somebody, lives and plays in Fayetteville, they don't really want to know that they can go all the way to Bentonville right now. They want to know how they can live and play in Fayetteville using public transportation. So that's really what we're focusing on at the end of Q2, beginning of Q3. And we're also trying to raise awareness for bus stops themselves. So if you notice on our social media right now, we're doing guess where this bus stop is. And we're encouraging the community to look for our bus stops, but also be a little bit more engaged with our social media, but also be more engaged with the actual bus stops themselves, so that they can notice them and say, oh, there is a bus stop at the Bentonville Community Center. Oh, there is a bus stop here. And it's to everybody's point about on demand and fixed route. We raise awareness about on demand. People think on demand is really cool, but what we really want to do is empower people to use fixed route, because it does cost $0. And to John's point, it does cost $0 to do these things. And so we want people to know, hey, let's focus on $0. Let's focus on how you can use the systems that we have in place right now. And let's do some trip planning. And a lot of the emails that we get are now trip planning, less for on demand, hey, I want to book a ride, and more for how can I get from downtown Rogers to the home office. And so we're able to do fixed route that whole way and say, this is where you're going to go. And then this is how you would trip plan going on in the future. So those are the kind of emails that we're getting right now, which makes me really excited, because it's not the have tos that are trying to use public transportation. Now it's transitioned to the want tos. And when I first started here, we were really trying to change the negative stigma of using public transportation. I do really feel like each department has done a really great job at doing that, because now there's a different demographic and people are more encouraged to use public transportation. And one thing that we started to do a little bit different is we started Train the Trainer ambassador program. And so we have our ambassador events where we facilitated multiple events with multiple cities. We worked with the high school students in Springdale. We're going to do multiple ambassador events with them. And then we have some printed materials, promotional guides and training guides for them as well. So back to the point of Train the Trainer. So we've done a bigger event with UAMS where they, to John's point again, reaching out to people that are on maybe public assistance or that have food insecurities, or even, where there's that stopgap between like not being able to get to the doctor's appointment. So we partnered with UAMS and multiple organizations throughout Northwest Arkansas. And what we've done is, to Joel's point as well, they said, hey, we want a fixed route for these places, and we want a fixed route, and we want this, and we want that. And I said, I love that idea. That's really great. Please come to our our board meetings and tell your cities that, but after you do that, what we need and what the cities need is the cities need data. If we can't really do much without data, we understand we want to help everybody, that's the goal, help everybody. But we really need to be able to prove that to the cities. And so what UAMS and what some of the other food banks did is they decided to purchase 300 plus bus passes so that they can, for the people that are saying like, hey, I need to get to the food bank, but I can't get there. There's no fixed route that gets me there. So this is the answer to that right now. And so what we're hoping is when people sign up for this program, they don't really have to sign up. Honestly, they just show up. And they say, hey, I need a bus pass, and they give them the bus pass, and they do it that way. And we had a really serious conversation where I said, okay, if you're gonna be doing this, you're gonna be passing these out, but what you can't do is you can't sell it to them. You can't add $1 to it, you can't add 50 cents to it, because if somebody needs a bus pass, and we can't have you making money off of them. So those are really clear conversations that we've had with these organizations. And these organizations wanna do exactly what John and Joel are saying. They're saying, hey, we need a fixed route, but we also need data to prove that this fixed route is here, but we're not gonna charge the people that need it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna help them prove it. And so that's really, I'm really excited about this program that they're gonna be launching in June. And we're sorting out all the details on how to get these bus passes into the hands of the people in Northwest Arkansas to really show, hey, this is where we need a bus route. And to Juliet's point, I believe, she was saying, you know, what happens when you have all of these heat maps all over the place? Well, hopefully this is something that we can show proof, hey, everybody's trying to get to the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. How can we do this? How can we do this? And so we've also partnered with UAMS to launch a survey, and they're gonna be developing it and marketing it in multi-languages, in Spanish, English, Spanish, and Marshallese, how people are using the bus, what's preventing them from getting to medical appointments, what's preventing them to get to food banks. And even though a lot of these organizations know the answer, 99% of the transportation is reliable transportation, but again, to the point of we need data, they're gonna ask these questions and hopefully they'll have the data to prove it and say, hey, we need transportation to these locations, especially to specific hospitals. So all of that came from our ambassador program. And so I know a few people in here have done it. And if you haven't, I really would encourage you to go through our ambassador program, because it's the first thing that we ask people to do in our community when you want to partner with OJ Regional Transit. We say, come and learn about us. And when they came to learn about us, they said, oh, wow, we could be doing more. And so we have over 30 organizations that have trained in the ambassador program. And then now we're going to do the train the trainer. So UAMS and multiple organizations are actually sending their teams here to learn about transit, but also to learn how to teach it to their clients, to teach it to the people that are walking through their doors. And then we have multiple campaigns running through the city of Bentonville right now, because they had just launched different routes. And so we're saying, hey, we're doing a very targeted geofence around 8th Street to encourage utilization for, you know, if you're going to lunch, if you're gonna go for a meeting, you don't have to worry about parking, really to get those want to want to a little bit more. And we have an ad running on Facebook and Instagram, and we have an ad pending on LinkedIn that had to prove that I was the one that took the picture, even though now that I'm looking at the picture, Kendall, I probably have to say you took the picture, because I think that's your picture. Because they stopped it, LinkedIn denied the ad saying for copyright, so I've been going back and forth with them for a little bit. We've developed a marketing content campaign with Citymapper, and I believe Joel's probably talked a little bit about that already, and how we're gonna launch that hopefully in June, once that is up to our standards. And then we were able to have a really great open conversation with the city council in Bentonville. I believe it was the finance committee, about what we were doing as far as our messaging goes and how we were reaching out to specifically the city of Bentonville, but really they did have questions about the entirety of our communications. And then we're currently developing a marketing piece for the city of Rogers. We started with a door hanger campaign, and so you might see that there. And this is something that we may not use, but specifically for this particular conversation we had with the city of Rogers, because I believe we're in a transition to a trifold. But what this did do is spark an idea to create something like this for each city. And kind of to go a step further, we decided to, instead of door hangers, we decided to do direct mail pieces. And this will help us target particular areas. So if we wanted to get them in the hands of people that lived in a particular complex, instead of handing it to the office manager saying, hey, pretty, please, may you please get these into your people? Instead, we decided to look into what the financial investment would be to send direct mail pieces to each and every apartment in a particular complex. It helps with targeting, and also just as far as generational goes, when you're talking about your older Gen Z and your millennials, they really do prefer direct mail pieces. It's not white noise. It's not something they throw away. It's not an ad that they click out of. They actually look at the direct mail pieces. They love to see their name and stuff, especially when it's not a bill. So we're really, really excited about that.
Can I speak to this real quick? Yeah, I completely failed. I mean, miserably failed to cast vision for what this was supposed to be. So right now, Rogers and Bentonville are pretty much all fixed route. They're completely integrated, right? I mean, there's not a single route in Benton County that's an isolated route. You can get from any fixed route stop to any other fixed route stop, and Benton. I mean, you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, you can hit every, from one side to the other. You can hit every fixed route.
Yes, and so there's not like a fixed route off on the side somewhere or anything like that. I mean, it is now a Benton County fixed route integrated system. And that's what I was trying to promote. So it wasn't like Uptown Rogers, City of Rogers, and I'm concerned about, okay, we're gonna do a Rogers marketing campaign and a Bentonville marketing campaign. I just want to do a Benton County. I prefer to do a Northwest Arkansas marketing campaign. Right now, Benton County is still, isolated from Washington County. And so, we want to go back and take another look at this. Maybe this is something where the Rogers and Bentonville Chambers of Commerce collaborate on something. But the idea being that it's important. It's important for the people of Rogers and Bentonville to know that you can get from anywhere in Rogers, anywhere in Bentonville, vice versa on fixed route buses. Anyway, within the boundaries of the heat map and so the resources we have. So, yeah, I wish I could go back and be more clear in the meeting that we had on this about what we were really trying to accomplish, but it all came about because we had a meeting with some of the major, landowners and developers in the Uptown area where I discovered that we don't have any buses yet, and so, well, gosh, I mean, we put bus stops right next to your building. Why don't you know about this? But trying to get that word out that, I think from a business development, economic development perspective, marketing, new development of of built environments, all this kind of stuff, that it's important to get that out there. So, yeah, really want to try to reframe this as a not Rogers marketing in Bentonville, because in Benton County, we're not talking about working and playing within Rogers. We're talking about, even to the extent that we disintegrated our direct route between Uptown and Downtown to go through Bentonville, because we see that to be more advantageous focusing on the Walmart campus. So trying to really blur the lines between those two cities.
Well, I think we are starting to blur the line between the two cities. The one thing that I think we still need to do is to drop that bomb right there on that particular neighborhood and say, boom, you're being marketed to.
Yeah. But if it just says, how to get from your Rogers neighborhood to these Rogers services, that's missing the point.
And I would agree with that. It's how to get out of your Rogers neighborhood.
Right.
Using transit. I like that concept because we're gonna have to start another one, and I can't even tell you if this is actually Rogers or Bentonville. The traffic circle that's north of Water Tower and that connects to 8th Street.
Yeah,
we're attempting to find that neighborhood that's to the east. 800 plus residents in that neighborhood.
That's Little Flock.
We're attempting to draw that group in because the bus goes right past them. So, I mean, I just learned that that's Little Flock, but we're gonna target that area saying, hey, by the way, within 100 yards of your house, there's a bus stop.
Thanks, Little Flock.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
actually, that's Bentonville. Little Flock's on the other side of that subdivision. It's College Place subdivision in Bentonville.
We kind of recently, or I just recently learned that now you can go on Apple Maps and Google Maps and we have integrated these, they have somehow magically integrated these fixed routes into their mapping. And so I can.
That's all magic, right? There's the magic, man.
All right. I mean, it's smoke and mirrors and magic, and ORT staff working hard to make it happen. So.
Yeah.
they can do culture planning with that.
Oh, yeah,
It's not perfect still.
And that's important because we have so many out of town visitors coming to call Walmart and stuff that expect transit. And when I land in a new town, I always start with transit and I do it with Google Maps or Apple Maps. And so not being able to do that locally has been a problem. And I'm really glad that we've got that figured out.
Well, I want to make sure the marketing group here gets with, you guys and finds out, gets a more focused vision.
Yeah.
On.
Well, and we'll get Bentonville into the conversation. Maybe Bentonville doesn't want to do this. I think they probably do.
I know they do. Bentonville's got a new guy, McCain.
Oh, you're looking at me.
I'm looking at you because I introduced him to you and I can't remember his name.
That was
Michael something.
Or Michael, there you go. Well, I'll clarify the marketing for and the messaging for each city. I understand that we do want to blur the line between each city. The focus of this particular messaging for this year is to really educate the locals. And yes, we do have out-of-town people, and yes, we do want to capture those people. And those out-of-town people are the ones that already know how to use public transportation. To John's point, they expect it, they know how to do it. The people in Northwest Arkansas, they don't expect it, they don't know how to do it. And so that's why the messaging is really focusing on maybe get them out of their neighborhood, but also get them out of their neighborhood to your local downtown.
Yeah.
Because we want them to go from their neighborhoods to the local restaurant so that they can invest in their community and they can go to the local events and they can do those things all while using public transportation. And so sometimes when you say, hey, look at everything, you can do all of this stuff and all of it, you can go from downtown Fayetteville all the way to Crystal Bridge, and you can do all these things. That can get really overwhelming for a lot of people that haven't done anything with public transportation before. But if we can say, hey, did you know you can get to the farmer's market from your house every Saturday? And that becomes a little bit of an easier trip. And so they start to do that. And then they say, oh, I didn't realize that I could get to Springdale, or I didn't realize I could go to the Jones Center. And I've never been to the Jones Center. And I do know a couple people that are local that live in Springdale that have never been to the Jones Center. And so when I heard that, and that was in the middle of last year, I realized that there are a lot of locals that have never explored their own city. And so if we could help bridge that, if we could say, hey, if you live on this end of Springdale, have you ever been to the Jones Center? Because that, what I feel, and again, the cities, please feel free to correct me on what you want your cities to do. This is what I've seen is the more locals that use something, the more they want to invest in it. So if 10 people in here use the bus, but 5 people don't, those 10 people will be louder than those 5 people. And those 5 people say, I've never used the bus. I don't think it's important. And those 10 people are like, I actually use the bus to go to school. Oh, I actually use to go to the doctor's appointment. I go to the Jones Center twice a week using the bus. Those stories, to Juliet's point, those stories are what helps the community to continue to invest in public transportation. So honestly, that's what this messaging this year is for, is to get those stories and to capture them and then to promote those stories. That way, when people from outside of the community come in, they can say, oh yeah, everybody uses public transportation. I already do. So that's the point of the type of advertising and marketing that we're doing right now. But again, cities, if you want to see something else, please feel free to send that my way and we can change stuff around. We can move stuff around, kind of like what we're doing for Rogers or Benton County.
And Michael McCrane is the new communications director in Bentonville, and I'm already in conversation with him to get a time for us to set up to kind of talk through some other things, and as far as like communication and how we can partner in regards to that. But yeah.
Hey, Lakeisha, we have a new communications director that's going to be starting at the city of Fayetteville.
Okay.
A week from Monday, and her name is Gracie Ziegler. And so just wanted you to be aware, and I'll make that connection once she's on board with y'all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Communications director. All right. So I guess we can jump back into the next section where Jeff will be able to talk about media mobility. I want to be mindful of our time, and then I'll wrap up the back end of it.
Good morning, everybody. This being the first quarter, I tallied up the outreach hours so far since January 1st, and I've been out there either networking or delivering route maps or booth fairs or the like, 130 hours so far this year. One thing that didn't make it on here because it's in its infancy, but the Veterans Administration Hospital reached out to us about putting some
advertising on the inside of buses for suicide prevention for veterans. And so it's very much in its infancy, but we're working on that. We've got a field trip scheduled for Tuesday with a lady who's got some little ones in there wanting to do just some general familiarity with public transit system. This picture right here was taken from a booth fair that we did on April 4th at the Adult Wellness Center. It's very well attended, and even this time was very well attended, even though it was pouring rain out there the day. A lot of older people that frequent the Adult Wellness Center still made it to us. Basically, the difference in my table was I had a chance to breathe in between talking to people. A lot of times that's not the case. It's one person after another. It's got question after question after question. It's always very well attended. This time, since we are marketing the need for drivers and mechanics, printed out some of these, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but little postcards that I hand out when I'm speaking at networking events. And it's got some digital information on how to go to our website and apply for a job. It's also got a QR code. I will admit that didn't really resonate with the clientele at the Adult Wellness Center. I don't know if they're not used to using QR codes, or in the past, I have given away applications, but at this particular event, not so much. But as I pass them around with my business card at networking events, a lot of people do take these to hand off to somebody else. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention before I take questions is while I've got the floor, the subcommittee meeting, and I'm just saying this because I'm sure Zachary's going to speak on it, but the Eastern Indian group in Bentonville that had scheduled, we were working on doing an event with them on Sunday, the 13th, I think. That's been pushed off to August, so that's misprinted on the meeting minutes. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
And as a reminder, just on public engagement, if you know of a program that is bike centric, we do have our blind spot awareness program where we actually take different size of vehicles out. We have a template that we lay out. We introduce people to the blind spots on the buses. We actually will put somebody in the driver's seat of a bus, not moving, and we'll have them see what they could look like or not look like as they are bringing their bicycle up close to the bus, moving their bicycle around the bus. We do it for 3 different sizes of vehicles, and it's pretty effective to be able to see that you can't see a bicyclist depending on where they are in their orientation to a vehicle. And that is a static display that we will take from location to location. And Franco is the one who typically spearheads that, but since he's not here, I just wanted to bring that up.
And this too is in the infancy stages. I haven't even referenced it in our communication department meeting yet, but trying to develop a game for kids to draw them to the bus, and then we can probably something like musical chairs that the parent can sit in the bus driver's seat as kids are running around and see that they can't see them when they're on that tarp. So it's in its infancy stages, but we're working on that as well. And last thing I want to mention is since the last board meeting, I've finally gotten approved to be one of the Bentonville Chambers ambassador programs. So I'm starting to get invited to open houses and ribbon cuttings and that type of thing, and starting to network more in Bentonville. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. In regards to the arts, culture, and the next piece around wellness, for the arts and culture section, one of the projects I'm working on is activating a bus shelter. This is a test that I'm looking to do, and I'm partnering with local artist Olivia Trimble, and she's creating the artwork design. And up at the top, this is from my side, left corner, where you see transit moves communities, access empowers all. This is just an example template that we kind of put together to show something visual, but I'm actually working with Printova, and they're going to help to create a visual rendering of what it would actually look like inside of a bus, so that because the goal is I would like to have it look similar to kind of what these examples down at the bottom are. So this is an example of a bus shelter with creative artwork out of Minneapolis, Minnesota Transit. But with this test, the goal is to transform some of our bus shelters within the community. This one will be located close to the Genesis Church in Fayetteville. And the hopes is to be able to connect local artists with a bus shelter within a specific city area and promote public transit awareness. And so it's another kind of like creative placemaking piece as well with that. The other piece is I have been selected as one of the artists with Crystal Bridges, this featured artist with their CB2U program for this year. And so with that, I've asked them that if I can also bring the arts plus transit communication information and signage with me as well to leverage it twofold, not only connecting with the community through the arts, but also connecting community about public transit. So I figured this would be a great way to make it a win-win-win all the way across the board, and also connect with thousands of people in the community at large public events. And so they have approved for me to do that. I don't know the dates just yet from Crystal Bridges that we'll be doing, but this program will start pretty much in May and go all the way into the fall season. And so those will be some of the things I'll be doing to engage with that. Down at the bottom, where we have the Fort Smith, so September 30th project, which is the mobile art gallery, will be featuring, so Scott Dornberg, who's actually one of our ORT drivers. He's an amazing photographer, found his hidden gift actually through our wellness program that he participated in, but he is going to be one of our featured artists, in addition to Art Girl Shay, who is a local artist within the community. And we're going to take, in partnership with Bobby's going to help us get a bus to Fort Smith at the transit conference to be able to highlight and show ways that you can basically utilize our public transit system and our buses to connect local art, but community in a different way to get people engaged. And then lastly is the Hot Springs International Film Festival. This is something that's still into the works, but also about utilizing art in our Where To documentary that was filmed a few years ago, but being able to bring that back to life and bring it out into the community to help educate and create awareness. My hopes is to be able to have this one in that film festival, but also be aware of other possible festivals within the local area. I know Fayetteville has one coming up I'm looking to apply for with that one, and any other creative spaces. I'm also in conversation with Crystal Bridges to see about what that would look like to have the film even showcased at their location as well with Crystal Bridges. So more details to come in regards to that. Go to the next slide. So as we're transitioning to the next slide, this one is our wellness program. Just a quick update. Again, the employees are showing up and participating in it. And right now we've had 9 to complete graduation. After the end of today, it'll be 10 that will graduate from the program. And then we've got 13 that's in progress, but we've had 21 that have come through this program again. And this is all focused on creating space to help reduce anxiety, stress, and also give them a safe space to express themselves, especially if they're out there driving those buses. That can be a lot, but also equipping them with tools and resources for them to take to be able to help them to be even more whole and well as they're out there supporting our community, and also just the employees within the ORT office. And then lastly is just a quick recap highlight from Gail and I's trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico, as we participated in the New Mexico Transit Association, where we provided 2 workshops. One was keynote on that Sunday, and then on Monday we provided the conference training around wellness in transit, so connecting community culture and care. And so those were 2 amazing productive days that we were really able to connect and engage with other transit organizations in the area. And so that's all that I have if you have any questions.
Okay.
Hearing no other
Thank you.
questions or comments, thank you, Rakisha, Eric, and Jeff. We will move on to the community engagement subcommittee minutes and the option of those. Zachary, did you want to hit the high points on this?
Yeah, sure. So the marketing team spoke on a few of the things we discussed at the subcommittee meeting. So I'll just, like you mentioned, hit a couple of the other highlights. We talked about how road work can impact routes and the importance of making sure that people are aware about closed drop-offs and pickups through updating the website and apps accordingly. We also talked about board members attending the ambassador training. I attended that training about 2 weeks ago with a few other board members present there as well. And I can say it was very well done. It was and informative. I would recommend board members who have not yet went through that to get with Erica about attending one of the training sessions. The ORT team did a great job, and that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
I'm
on
sorry.
this?
Sorry, I had one more quick highlight that just hit my mind was I've sent out some explore and learn ride along invitations to the group. If you haven't seen it, please reach out to me to let me know so I can make sure that I get that to you. But I want to thank everyone that is signing up to participate in these ride alongs that'll be happening from starting May 2nd and it'll go all the way through August the 29th. And feel free to share with your teams and members in the community too.
Okay, if there's no other comments, do I hear a motion to adopt the community engagement subcommittee minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, those are adopted. Next up on the agenda is the discussion of transit successes or opportunities. Does anyone want to kick this off?
This is for the cities, by the way.
Yeah, in terms of opportunities, and I assume Joel's already aware of this, but Razorback Transit is in the beginning phases of doing a transit study for their system. And we've been talking to them a little bit about that and are in the early stages of engagement. My assumption and hope is that Ozark Regional Transit is also engaging in that discussion, and we've been encouraging Fayetteville Public Schools to also begin engaging in that transit planning effort, particularly as they think about transportation needs, after school needs for high school students, given the proximity of Fayetteville High School in relationship to the University of Arkansas, and they've got a number of routes that are currently going right by the high school. So that's an opportunity we're sort of pushing down here in Fayetteville, and hopeful that it'll grow some fruit.
Good. Yes, we do know about it, and we are at the beginning of being, I would say, being actively involved there, like in our 10-year development plan also.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk on this item? Hearing none, we can go ahead and go to the last item on the agenda, the executive director's report.
Just a few items to talk about here. One of them is the Arkansas Public Employee Retirement System. We got moved from a House bill to an act. The act was executed, and we are now part of the legislation that allows different entities to be part of the Arkansas Public Employment Retirement System. Gail and Tiffany, our HR department, have been working closely with the people down there at APERS, and we are now in the APERS process, and the APERS process begins with a 90-day, I'm going to call it cooling period, where from the time the act is signed to the time that we can actively be a member of it is 90 days. Within the 90 days, one thing has got to happen within 10 days of us being a part of it is that,
After the 90
and
days.
yeah, 10 days after the 90 days. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for that correction. So basically, we're looking at a date of July 16th, having the board assemble, within that 10 days of July 16th, having the board assemble and formally say, yes, we are making a motion, we are passing a motion for a resolution for us to be a part of APRS. Even though we've talked about it and you guys gave me the authorization to pursue it, now there is that final step that is required by APRS. So that means that the month of July is typically an executive committee month. Instead of doing a July board meeting, or excuse me, a June board meeting, do we want to move that to July? Or instead of doing an August meeting, do we want to move that to July? Or do we just want to do a expanded executive committee meeting that is 100% of everybody on the board? I will leave that up to you to let me know which way we should go with that. But we've got to have a resolution done within a certain period of time for APRS. What are your thoughts on something to that effect?
That 10 days of either side of July 16th, or is that 5?
10 days after.
Well,
After.
what has to, I think anytime after that 19th,
Anytime.
but to get it started by August, we have it done in July. After that, yes,
Okay,
16th of July, so,
I see.
But we've already,
to get it to them within 10 days of your signatures.
yeah, that's where
yeah,
the,
that's what the 10 days is,
Yeah.
yes.
But the board's already agreed in principle.
Yes, sir.
yes, so they just
I,
need
I
to,
mean, I think the most expeditious process, I'd be comfortable with, since we've already basically agreed to do it.
We could do a executive committee meeting online on that fourth Thursday, but we've got to have the meeting notes and we've got to have a resolution, and the resolution has to be notarized. So,
Does the resolution have to be agreed upon by the entire board or just the executive committee?
by the board.
Okay.
So Joel, I just want to check your dates real fast. Sine die for the legislature is May 5th. And anything passed by the legislature that did not have an emergency clause does not go into effect until 90 days after May 5th. June, July, August 5th-ish would be my, what my math shows on that. So
No,
that's the,
June, it's 4:30, not 5:30. Or 4:3, not 5:3, was
Yeah.
when it was signed into law, but
no,
APRS gave us
that's not, it's 90 days after sine die, which is the end of the legislative session, not when the legislation was signed into law.
So that's 4/16.
yeah, she had told that, we were told by APRS that was 4/16.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can clarify that and make sure we have that.
I would
correct.
clarify that if it's when it was signed or when the bill actually becomes law, which is, as I said, 90 days after sine die. And that's Latin for something, I guess, finale or whatever of the legislature, and the final date of the legislature, even though they're done, they're not done until May 5th. So get clarification on that.
We will clarify that, but is everybody okay so that if we get a July date, is everybody okay with signing on for an executive committee meeting that specifically talks about the APRS, and that way we can get the resolution done?
Few questions on
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Executive committee, 1, we need to meet quorum, right?
yes,
2, are proxies allowed?
I would say yes,
Okay. Kind of condense it a little.
right,
We have to.
right.
That's mainly while we're voting on
Yeah.
it.
Don't have any issue with that.
That's the path I'll take, and then we'll find out, the sign or die thing. We'll figure that out with,
Tiffany is looking at our email to see if she can clarify.
Okay.
If not, we'll contact Shelley.
we'll have it squared away within the week. Moving on, the CFI grant, the charging fueling infrastructure grant still sits in the hands of the FHWA. I can't tell you what's happening with anything on, federal granting opportunities at this point in time. I also cannot tell you when we're going to get 100% of annual appropriations for 2025. Right now, the only appropriations that are out there, I believe, are 6/12 of the appropriations for 2025. Even though the continuing resolution was signed month and a half ago to carry us through the rest of federal fiscal year 2025. So this is probably one of the weirdest financial years I've seen so far when it comes to federal finances. Don't know where we're going with that, but we're setting all right now with everything that we've got. Mindy does a great job of making sure that our funding is always in line, and we get to play the hurry up and wait game on the federal government. So on the CFI grant, if and when they go ahead and release it, we'll still do the 14 charging fueling infrastructure locations. It just now is pushed off a full year. A shelter purchase. With your permission, we've got letters, I think, from everybody. Just waiting on Springdale's final letter. We got letters from everybody in agreement to go ahead and provide in-kind type services to match the federal funding. I just want to make sure that we're publicly aware. I get the official nod from the board to turn around and say, yes, Joel, go ahead and purchase 20 shelters. Those 20 shelters will be spent, the money for those 20 shelters will come from the remaining 2023 5339 funding. We've got about let's see, $74,000 in that, and the 2024, which has got $163,000 in it. We purchased $180,000 worth of shelters. They come in, they're not committed to any one city until that city turns around and says, I've got a sidewalk and a pad for you to mount it on. Then we've got that, it's ready to go. I would much rather have 20 shelters out here without a name on them. And they can be used at any point in time, then have 20 shelters out here with 5 of them having a city's name on them, and a city sits there for 2 years waiting for a shelter pad to be made, because that's just money wasted setting out there for anybody. So I don't want to waste any money. I want to make sure that the money goes, or that the shelters go to where they're going to be served quickest, not best, just quickest. So do I have the nod to go ahead and spend the 5339 funding? Does anybody have a disagreement with that?
I moved to nod.
Yeah, all right. We got a nod.
Take a motion.
I don't need a motion. You guys gave me the ability to go ahead and go after federal grants at the beginning of the year. I just want to make sure you guys know exactly what I'm doing with it. National Transit Database. This is number crunching. If you ever want to see how ORT compares to other systems throughout the US, it's usually about, from the year you look at it, you can probably get about 2 years ago information. 2024 information right now we're putting in. 2023 information is in there. Go into National Transit Database, I believe it's .org. And that's where you can get everything from ridership to expenditure, all that information to see how we compare line for line with everything else. This is a deep dive into everything that we do. Somewhere along the way, it does play into the federal granting apportionments, but that is really about 10 years in arrears of when we have really good ridership and they're getting ready to do a reapportionment. They will look at about the 10 years past information. So National Transit Database is almost done for our 2024 information. Still got a little bit of safety stuff to put in, and then do the final CEO sign off. Tentatively right now, executive committee meeting is on May 22nd, and regular board meeting is on June 26th. And that's all I've got. Tiffany, did you find out anything?
I did, it's in your email.
Okay, I have got, this is what Shelley says. She said, she gave me the wrong date first. She said the legislative session adjourned on April 16th. So a vote after that point to join the 1st of August. That's coming from Shelley. I can verify that with my phone today.
Because they may have gone home for the month, but legislatively, it actually ends May 5th, you were saying, Peter?
Uh-huh.
Validate that. All right, we'll get it validated and then I'll send out an invite for an APERS vote, an APERS resolution. And that's all I have. Is there any questions, comments, concerns?
I will send that letter up to the mayor's office this afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, are there any comments in general that need to be made before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.